the Spurs of the East, as they say.
Okay, we're Mike and Mike. So to the fight. Yesterday, at some point, Floyd Mayweather texted Stephen A. Smith and said, I will fight him in a year after his surgery. Speaking of Manny Pacquiao. And look, I mean, if you're Floyd Mayweather, there's no reason not to say that. I'm not criticizing Mayweather for saying that. But the notion that that anyone is entertaining a rematch between these two fighters, and if in fact it is based upon the fact in any way that Pacquiao had a shoulder and thus was not at his best, I'm just flabbergasted. You know, the quote, I looked it up here. The quote has long been attributed to P.T. Barnum, but apparently it really was not Barnum who said, there's a sucker born every minute.
Right.
But someone said it, and boy, does it seem to apply here. Can you imagine anyone getting excited, much less generating hundreds of millions of dollars, to see those two guys fight again?
Well, what if Pacquiao's healthy this time? Maybe we'll get a better fight. Isn't that what we're going to push? Isn't that what we're going for?
I'm begging you to be kidding.
But what if he's healthy? Isn't there going to be a difference? You expect a different Pacquiao at that point? Isn't there at least a little bit of intrigue with that?
None.
If his shoulder was in fact hurt. Now, again, what we don't know is if it was torn to need surgery before he got into the ring or he finished it off while he was in the ring. But if he gets that surgery and is close to 100% again, no interest at all?
None.
None?
If that fight was in my backyard,
yeah,
I would close the drape so it didn't disturb me.
That's a Papa Cozy line right there.
Are you telling me you buy that fight? If they put that fight on pay-per-view for $29.99, would you buy it?
I'm not going to say yes right now, but I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no. I'm one of those people P.T. Barnum was probably talking about.
I will tell you right now. I'll say this right now. I'm not buying another fight. I will not pay to watch another fight. And look, this is my job to analyze these things. So I will obviously talk about them. I'm not saying I'm morally offended by it. I will not pay to watch another Manny Pacquiao fight under any circumstances.
I just know
what those guys did was pathetic, and it does, in my opinion, even if it doesn't legally constitute defrauding the public, it is absolutely ripping off the public.
I just know the sport of boxing, so for anybody to be overly shocked that you feel like you didn't get your money's worth, that's on you. You know what? Every time we talk about boxing, whether it's you and me, whether it's two people on the street, know the corruption in that sport. Okay, it's pretty evident. So if you're going to lay down your money for a boxing pay-per-view, if you don't understand the risks, that's on you. I knew full well when I laid down the $100. Who knows what's going to happen in this thing? Who knows? Because it's boxing.
Well, there's another famous expression.
I still did it.
There's another famous expression.
And it is?
It has something to do with fooling me once and who the shame is on, and fooling me twice and who the shame is on.
I knew it the first time. So I certainly would know it the second time. But just think, Greeny, he might be healthy now. Maybe you'll give him a better fight.
Yeah. Maybe they'll let him use all those things that were helping him be a great fighter in the first place.
We'll see if the class action lawsuit comes to an end before that, which inevitably you knew was going to happen and has happened and will continue to grow, I'm sure.
All right, now let's get to Dan Rayfield, who's ESPN's senior boxing writer, was on SportsCenter talking about all of this business with Pacquiao's shoulder injury, and did they disclose it, or did they purposely not disclose it? Was that meant not to give Mayweather an advantage? What were the reasons why the box was checked incorrectly? His people are saying, Pacquiao, we read you all the stories yesterday, that it was just an innocent mistake. Here's Rayfield on what all this means.
Had he notified them 2.5 weeks earlier when the injury occurred, I spoke to Cisco Aguilar, who was the Nevada State Athletic Commission chairman, and he said if they had told us ahead of time, our doctor would have worked with them, and if everything was okay in camp and things were moving along, and of course the medication that he was seeking met all the standards of their anti-doping rules, they probably would have allowed the shot to happen. He would have had the anti-inflammatory, and perhaps he would have performed better having that prior to the fight.
There's no doubt that, I read that as well from the Nevada Boxing Commission. They weren't informed. Their whole deal was, you didn't check the box. We didn't know. The medication would have been fine. USADA had approved it when the Pacquiao camp went to USADA and said, we got a shoulder, we want to get a part of the medication is the Toradol, the shot. They approved it then. You knew it would have been approved before the fight had the Pacquiao camp disclosed it to the Nevada Boxing Commission.
Is Pacquiao going to be in trouble?
Why he said no on that box, I have no idea. He's going to face some kind of disciplinary hearing most likely because of it. I don't think it's not like they're going to suspend him for, years years or fine him an astronomical amount of money, but the commission needs to have some answers to why he did what he did, or what he didn't do, which was check off the proper box on his medical questionnaire.
Again, they're going to tell you they already started it. That's the line they said. Oops.
Yeah, it is. It's oops. It's a $400 million sporting event, and the answer, an acceptable answer was, oops.
We've only had to do this how many other times?
Our bad.
To fill out a medical form. Oops. You know what? Didn't know it said that. Wasn't really sure what that one said. So but you know what? As they're all giggling about it, but they're just saying, everybody keeps saying the same thing. Keep saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We just forgot.
No matter what happens, just keep saying the same thing, and maybe we'll find a way to make a few more $100 million because people are just stupid enough to
People
fall
are going to
for
do it. Listen, there's no way it'll be as big as this one, the money grab, but it's still going to be a lot of money. You know it is.
Yeah, Bob Aaron, we first have to make sure the rotator cuff heals well. I'm confident the surgery will work, and if it does, why wouldn't we entertain a rematch? And if they really want to do a rematch, and they really want to do something for the sport that is meaningful, and again, Mayweather, whatever you think of him, I don't blame any of this part of it on him.
Absolutely not.
In fact, his post on Instagram was 19 years in the fight game and I've had one excuse. Quote, don't have an excuse. End quote. Winners win and losers have excuses. I get why Mayweather, put the fight on regular TV. Just put the fight on TV. Get paid an amount of money to do the fight and then fight. But if this fight goes on pay-per-view, I genuinely believe they will have a hard time selling it. I really do. I just can't believe that after all of this, that people will still line up to buy that fight.
Well, as I said, it will be much less. It's just a matter of where it ends up and what price they would put it. I cannot believe we're actually talking about this a year away, about pay-per-view pricing. People will still buy it. They'll still make millions. I don't know what a network would offer them in guaranteed money, but do we think that anybody in either camp is going to sit down and say, okay, guys, you know what? We're not going to make very much money here, but let's do what's right for the sport of boxing.
Of course not. Of course not. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting that might be their best way to go because
why? I mean,
because I'm not sure people will buy the pay-per-view.
But
if you have something that you're going to try and sell to people and people don't want to buy it, you may be better off getting some guaranteed money up front from ESPN, who would certainly televise it, or Fox. Or
well, then it depends on the money because you know what? You say that right now. A year from now, people are going to buy it. People are going to buy it. Again, not at this level.
And not at this price. No one's spending $100.
I completely agree with that. But instead of Mayweather making $100 million, could he make $80 million? $70 million? No networks.
Well, I think Mayweather made like $200 million.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. I meant $200 million. So in this one, maybe it's down to $80 million. ESPN, Fox, CBS, they're not giving him $80 million. No, they're not. So he still could make way more in a pay-per-view, even if he dropped down that much of a percentage. So for him not to even think about putting it on free TV.
But even that, I think that this fight from a financial standpoint has so skewed our perspective. Hembo, what has Mayweather made? What was his biggest individual payday before this? You know, this one, $200 million is so out there.
Right. The deal with Showtime, I believe, was 6 years and $200 million for 6 fights. I'm sorry, 6 fights, $200 million. That was his deal with Showtime.
Even I can do that math.
Look at
you. That's $33.3 million per fight.
Wow, that's nice.
So that's a ways down from the number you're talking about. It's also, but you're right. It's much more than anyone is going to guarantee.
That's exactly right. And these guys are about maximizing their dollars, not about, you know what, this is probably, for Mayweather, this may be my last fight. I'm going to do what's right for the sport of boxing. I mean, that's more laughable than the whole talk about the rematch.
In my opinion, it's Pacquiao who comes out of all of this looking terrible. Just terrible. And his side of it that comes out looking terrible.
I don't think he looks terrible. I don't. I think it's a guy toward the end of his career that had an injury that tried to fight through it, and part of the reason was a monster payday. I think a majority of people out there would have said it yesterday. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. I think a majority of people would have done the exact same thing.
We're Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. You can test drive Snapshot even if you have insurance with another company. See how much you can save before you switch. The winning word of the morning is on the way. You will hear the word and the ways to enter your chance to win a fabulous